Hi again then guys, and so we've got another special projects replica build for you guys today, and this time it's a requested build of a car which I wasn't actually aware of the existence of, and it's a car from Gran Turismo 5. It was a DLC vehicle and it's called the Camaro Edge Special. I never got the opportunity to use this car because I bought Gran Turismo 5 after Gran Turismo 6. And never had access to the DLC in that way. So this was an interesting car for me to find out about, and you can actually make a surprisingly accurate replica of the car on GT6, not just visually but in terms of performance. It's not spot on though. So, of course, we'll go first of all to the visual tuning garage to set up the look of the car, and there is some room for personal variation. Then of course we'll go over to the tuning garage for the setup of the car, and then finally take it out to the track to see how it performs. Now, as far as the bodywork, the body kit that's the most similar, it's not exactly the same due to the paint, but that's the most similar to the Edge Special, is the Type B kit, which is a relatively modest looking kit. It's got the extra chin, the extra side skirts, a little bit of a lip on the rear bumper as well. I have opted to fit the flat floor. Now I personally think that this car looks much better without it. The flat floor makes it look like it's got a goiter hanging under its chin, although that would be the chin at the back, so not really. But the reason why I've done that is because you need the PP to be higher, and even with the flat floor, the PP still is not quite as high as the actual car from GT5, but we'll address that when we get into the tuning of the car. As far as the rear wing, you can get pretty much the exact rear wing of the car, which is the Type A Special wing, which is a quite nice looking ducktail, almost reminiscent of the ZL1 Camaro actually. As far as the rims, now this is where I'm not too certain, because as I said, I never actually used the car, so those who have had the car will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but in different pictures I've seen this car with different rims. But the stock rims would appear to be these raised GTSs. If that's not the case, then feel free to correct me, because obviously I never used the car. Now, as far as the paint, I don't know what the paint of the actual car was. It was obviously a blue, and a relatively solid looking blue, a strong blue. Now, there are a lot of blues on Gran Turismo 6, so of course feel free to go for whichever one you want, or just a completely different colour, you know, go against the crowd. But the colour that I've opted for is a metallic colour, as you can see, Imperial Blue Metallic, and that actually comes from the Ford Focus ST170, and from what I could find, that's about as similar to the actual car as you can get. But I am also partially colourblind, so go for whatever colour you need. I've gone for that same colour for the brakes, and the rims I've left the colour from the dealership. So that's it overall for the visual look of the car. So now let's go over to, of course, the tuning garage. So as I mentioned just now, I wasn't able to get the power, weight and PP to match up correctly to what appears to be the specs of the actual car in GT5. It does have the same power and the same weight, which is of course the most important thing, but the PP is still, if I remember correctly, not quite as high. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Some of the cars do just have a higher PP for no apparent reason, like the Chrome Liners and the Stealth, but regardless, that's about as close as I could get it to be. Now I've gone for sports softs because it is of course more of a street based vehicle. We've gone for a ride height of 100 front and rear, springs of 550 and 925, the dampers to 4, anti-roll we've left on 3, neutral camber and tow. We'll come back to the gearbox in just a second. For the diff, I've got the initial torque on 10. You don't necessarily need it that high, to be honest. Then again, you could go higher, depends on personal preference. We've got acceleration and braking as high as possible. As far as power, we do have an oil change, if I remember correctly, a stage 2 engine tune, sports cat and supercharger to bring us up to the power of the actual car. I am running the maximum downforce, although that's not essential, and we've got a stage 1 weight loss package with a 74 kilo ballast to bring us up to the 1600 kilo weight of the Edge Special, and then I've put that ballast all the way to the front to get us to nicely sit at a 50-50 weight split. Finally, for the gearbox, as it happens, the ratios that I could find were pretty much the stock ratios. So I don't know if that's the case or if the car had different ratios. I wasn't really able to find anything to say otherwise. So if there are those of you who know what the gears were, feel free to put that in the comments below. But as far as I know, they're pretty much the same. So a very simple gearbox setup overall. But that's it overall for that tuned setup of the car. Now let's of course finally take it out to the track to see how it performs. Overall, as I said, I've never actually driven the real version, real of course being relative, of this car on Gran Turismo 5, so those of you who have will have a better point of reference than I do. That being said, I hope you find this tune fun and about as close as I could get, at least, to the Edge Special, and it's a very fun car to drive, and I have to say it does not feel anywhere near as heavy as it is. 1600 kilos even, is pretty hefty, but this car handles itself extremely well, partially due to that flat floor, which may not look nice, but certainly does the job. Even on sports tyres it handles almost like a kind of low-level cup/touring car, so pretty impressive, and it certainly has performance potential and even racing potential. So if you decide to use this replica of the Edge Special Camaro, obviously I hope you find it fun and potentially competitive for racing. And if you'd like to keep up with other builds like this in the future, be sure to hit subscribe down below. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.